Hello and welcome to another episode of Baer's Anime Club, my ongoing video series where every other Monday I take a look at something from the world of anime that I want to chat with you about. It could be a deep dive on a subgenre or a recap of a show that I've gotten around to watching that I think you should check out, or just, I don't know, maybe I want to talk about a light novel that I've been reading. It could be anything, and this particular episode is a thing that I should have been doing for quite some time and never got around to doing. It's my favorite shows of 2024 so far. Not that I should have been talking about my favorite shows of 2024 earlier, is that years and years since I've been doing these year-end top 10s, halfway through the year, I should have been collecting what I liked so far that year. Now, I'm going to talk about 10 shows, but I am not going to rank them in order. 1 through 10, I am going to just do it alphabetically because I'm not thinking that far ahead. And also, I take so much time to rank my shows that it doesn't make any sense for me, particularly to rank these if not all 10 of these are going to be my top 10. Because I have to imagine that something this season or something in the fall 2024 season is going to rank. Like at least one show is going to be in there. And there's one show that we'll talk about that is a 2-core, that the second core is happening right now. So I guess you could say that it's from either season, whatever. But yeah, so I've got 10 shows here. And then I can look at later, and you can look at later, what shows stood out to me and didn't make the cut, but were still good. And then I can also, like, I don't have to go back and really pound the pavement to really pull together that list. Because usually several peek behind the curtains of my process, I just write down in a list every show that stood out to me, and then I start narrowing down that list and go, okay. And then I do look at things like how many of these are isekai on my top 10? How many in the top 10 are romantic comedies? How many are fantasy shows? Are there any shonen in this? Did I forget to include any shows that had, seasons but ran continuously? Like, is this year One Piece cracks my top 10? A show that I really like that, let's be honest, probably could have ended up on my 2023 list and maybe should have ended up on my 2023 list and didn't. But it's like, okay, well, is this a year I put Demon Slayer on the list? Like, it might be the year Demon Slayer is not in my top 10 right now, or the list of 10 right now. And then, yeah, it'll be easy for me to go back there. And then you can see, like, oh, wow, halfway through the year, Pat thought that Sandland was one of his 10 favorite shows. Sandland didn't make the cut. I don't know if it will or not. Also, I want to say this list of 10 was not easy to make. My list was like 15. I narrowed it down to 10. So that should give you an indication about not only how many shows I watched, but how many shows I enjoyed. And then I have been preambling now for like a couple minutes. We're going to get into this list. So the last thing I will say, honorable mention to Whisper Me a Love Song. I cannot include it in my 10 shows, my favorite shows 2024 so far, because it has not concluded. They took an indefinite hiatus after episode 10, so we have 2 more episodes left. If those 2 episodes air before my top 10 list publishes, either the end of December or January, depending on when I'm going to make it, I haven't decided yet. But probably the end of December. I kind of like doing it at the end of the year. So anyway, it's eligible if it concludes. I'm not going to put a unfinished show on my top 10 list, so I didn't include it in 10 shows that were my favorites, but it is one of my favorite shows of 2024 so far. Just not eligible for this list, but I wanted to mention it so that when I look at this video in December, I can go, oh yeah, Whisper Me a Love Song. And I'll know if episodes came out or not. Here we go. Now in alphabetical order again, not in a particular order other than alphabetical, not a ranking, just 10 shows. Maybe you can catch up on these if you're not loving the summer 2024 season. Here we go. Let's start with Cherry Magic. I have not watched a lot of romantic comedies this year. This is one of the best ones of several years. This has been a very good year for queer stories. We've had some bad queer stories, but bad because they weren't necessarily interesting, but not bad because they were terrible representation of queer folks or even messy representation of queer folks, because that's also okay. There's just been a lot of queer stories, and some of them are just like boring. Cherry Magic's not boring. Cherry Magic is really fun. I love you know me. I love a story that takes a little bit of a fantastical element just so that we can get to the comedy. In this case, if you're a virgin after a certain age, you become a wizard is like folklore in Japan, or an old wives' tale or whatever. In this case, it's true, and this dude can hear people's thoughts, and the thoughts he hears are the thoughts of a handsome man that is interested in him. And what does that mean? It's so cute and so lovely. Young professionals falling in love, and there's some people that aren't psyched about what's going on, but most people are pretty happy, and it's pretty damn joyful. Cherry Magic is great, and it was clearly one of my favorite shows. Okay, Delicious in Dungeon Meshi. This is going to be some people's favorite anime of the year. I don't necessarily think it'll be my favorite anime of the year, because it took me a long time to fall in love with it. I respected it. I enjoyed it. But I didn't fall in love with it until probably like the middle of the second core. Like eventually I came around to really appreciating it. It's deeper than it has any right to be. It's sillier than I was expecting. It's charming. It's depressing and gut-wrenching. I can understand young people who have not seen themselves in a main character that may be on the spectrum finding themselves in this. I related a little bit more to a girl who is clearly on the spectrum in another show that we'll talk about in a bit than I did necessarily with any character in this show. But I understand why Delicious in Dungeon or Dungeon Meshi resonated with so many people. It's an easy top 10 inclusion at the end of the year, and clearly one of my favorite shows, even if it took me a little while to get fully invested. From the jump in 2023, I have been into Frieren Beyond Journey's End. This is a show that was on my top 10 list for 2023 for the first core. Second core happened this year. This is the show to beat for me. Yeah, if you haven't watched Frieren, this is my favorite show of 2024 so far. Any show that is going to get out of the top, that is going to be my number one, has to beat Frieren. My top 10 list, which I have not started yet, starts with Frieren. It is the unconfirmed champion, the uncrowned king. It is a gorgeous telling of the story after the story, while also telling you the story. It is through flashbacks, through moments of conversation. The past permeates into the present. It is a story that is looking forward while also looking back, filled with beautiful characters. It is animated so goddamn well. It's gorgeous. Unbelievable story. Unquestionably my favorite show of the year. It would have been like... The reason it's not number one for 2023 is because Witch from Mercury rules. Like, oh no, it may be forgotten because it was the end of last year and the beginning of this year. So some people may put it low on their list or even forgot that it came out in 2024, and they will be doing themselves a disservice for forgetting a gem. Go read the manga. It's absolutely gorgeous. Kaiju number 8. I could actually, honestly, let's be real, see this not being in my top 10. At the end of the year, and maybe featuring some other shonen. Is this a revelation? No. It's a very good, silly show about a guy trying his best, and it involves monsters and cool costumes and a ragtag bunch of people. It's got a tsundere girl, which people love. It's got people trying hard. There's some seemingly unrequited love. There's some goofiness, as I said, and some silliness, and it's got a lot of heart. Super into Kaiju number 8. Again, could easily slip out of my top 10 when the time comes, but right now I am happy to include it in this list because this is one of my favorite shows of 2024. The Many Sides of Voice Actor Radio is another bubble show. It is another show that I could see not ending up on my top 10 list because I fell in love with some other shows. Maybe Oshinoko Season 2 is going to take my idol spot because I don't really watch a lot of shows about idols. The fact that I'm watching 2 in a calendar year is kind of surprising. This show flew under people's radar because they were convinced that, and some people, I'm not going to say everybody, some people were convinced that this was queer baiting. That there were other shows that in the same season that were openly queer, and this one was like, well, they're just using it for attention. And that kind of might be true. I think it does get queer. It's just we didn't really get that far. We got mostly the teasing and the young love, whereas it aired in the same season as Whisper Me a Love Song, a show that was explicitly queer. This one was a little bit more like figuring it out. But I thought it was really fun. I think the exploration of what it means to be an idol, what it means to be yourself in front of the camera and your true self, and can you like bridge the gap? Can you do the wrestling style of it's me but turned up to 11 instead of this is a complete fabrication? And what does that mean while you're trying to get ahead? Also, an idol show about girls who are not particularly doing well in the world of voice acting is refreshing and kind of cool. I wish there was more of the radio show, more of what they were doing in it, a little bit more jokes, a little more comedy. I wish for that, but that's a small complaint. So again, this could end up not on my top 10 list, but I did at least want to say that it's one of my favorite shows of the spring season. So let me talk about another show that I didn't talk enough about. There's a couple on here that I just kind of silently loved, including Sandland. Does that photo look all right? I'm looking over to where my monitor is. Yeah, that photo looks all right, small. It doesn't look too great blown up. From my other monitor, one of my monitors, that image doesn't look good, but in this, it does look good. So hooray. Sandland. Yeah. It's just cool. It's just a fun adaptation with some new stuff. I think a few people out there will probably want to really showcase it because they want to celebrate Toriyama, based on a short manga with some other stuff. This is just like delightful. It came out, a bunch of episodes came out, and then it became weekly. And I think you got to do one or the other. And this weird thing where they're like, we'll put a bunch of episodes out for the people that like to marathon, but then they'll come back weekly because they'll be hooked. And I'm like, will they come back? I don't know, because I feel like not enough people were talking about how fun and interesting Sandland is. It looks incredible again. And it is a fine tribute, I think, to Akira Toriyama, rest in peace, that I certainly want to champion. And I didn't talk enough about it because I was kind of waiting for it to be done. I'd watched the first couple, and then I did come back to it. So, yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to chat about this more. And hopefully at the end of the year, again, this one's one that I'm like, I think this should be in my top 10. I don't know if it will be, but it kind of should be. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. Solo Leveling will be in my top 10. This did not surpass Frieren, but like if this isn't in my top 5, then I will be very surprised by the fall 2024 season, or I guess the summer one. But I've kind of got a lock on the summer. My next video will be about my recommendations for that. But yeah, Solo Leveling. Holy shit! This is just so slow paced that I think some people were waiting for like it to get good and they would go back and kind of like marathon through, because it does take a little while before, and honestly really towards the end of the season, before you're like, oh, okay, that's why this show is such a popular manhwa. This is, I think, the best manhwa adaptation to date, and that's for some people not saying much because they haven't really loved a lot of manhwa adaptations. I think this one, it was so popular in Korea and the world, honestly, South Korea and then the rest of the world, that it's a no-brainer that it got an animation treatment. And I'll say this, some people didn't love that it isn't like dead set on, the manhwa or the web novel. But I think the changes are smart. There's some foreshadowing. They change around some of the characters a little bit. There are a couple scenes that are omitted, and I keep mentioning how I keep wanting to mention how they omit a real edgelord scene that doesn't really fit with the tone. And all I could think of was that the author must have been having some kind of bad day, or maybe one time he got picked on by there were noisy teenagers at a cafe, and that was his revenge, was putting in his story. I don't know, but whatever. It never fit with anything, and it's not in the anime. And I'm like, hell yeah, you didn't need that scene. Solo Leveling is fantastic. If you haven't checked it out, please do. I think it is a good first step into the world of manhwa. If you're like, why are there guilds when there are dungeons and invasions and gates? Why are there all guilds? It does a good job of setting that up and kind of explaining it, because that is a thing that shows up in a lot of manhwa. And so if that's your first time checking that out, it can be like, I don't understand how the world building for this. There's good world building in Solo Leveling. Okay, so Core 1 happened in spring 2024. In summer 2024, that time I got reincarnated as slime. Season 3 is in its second core. It's a 2-core back-to-back. The first half is the action. The second half is going to get more action, but is more of the slice of life. If you thought that Season 2 was a bit too much of the action and not enough of the fun times are here. So maybe it'll drop the ball, and I'll be less in love with That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime Season 3 by the time the end of the year. I won't think back on it as fondly. But right now, I just finished watching this week's episode, and it's so fun and silly, and you're getting new characters are being introduced, and there's a little bit of drama going on, and there's still the background thing about the various people that definitely in this season went out of their way to try to fucking kill Rimuru. And so there's still that stuff, but also there's a festival about to happen, and good times, and characters who are fun are having fun times. And yeah, they introduced some new guys that I'm like, hell yeah. And they're new changes for some of the characters. It's enjoyable. I really do like it. Again, if Season 2 left you a little cold on the series, Season 3, the action I think is really well done. And then by the time you get to the second half, we're in Slime Diaries territory. And if you know what that is, you know to be excited. And you're also probably already watching it. Villainous Level 99. I haven't been saying the full titles of these, the long ones. Cherry Magic has a subtitle as well. So let me try to say this one here. I may be the hidden boss, but I'm not the demon lord. That's the full title of this one. Villainous Level 99. So this is one of two. I'm double checking my list. Yeah, this is only one of 2 isekai on the list, right? Halfway through the year, I only have 2 isekai on the list. What's going on, Pat? A lot of the isekai this year wasn't particularly great, and or is great, but is interesting. I can't relitigate why Jobless Reincarnation can't be on any of my lists. I just can't include it on my list. It's the most gorgeous isekai there is, and I hate that. Also, there's a couple out right now that are pretty good that could end up in my top 10, and there's I don't even know what are coming out in fall 2024. I haven't looked yet. I'm sure there's at least one isekai that I'm interested in. But Villainous Level 99 is one that you may have missed. I talked about it earlier, how there was a show on my list that had a main character who is on the spectrum, and how it didn't shy away from that and kind of focused on that, even without her saying it. And that's our main character, Yumiella, in Villainous Level 99. She's a capital G gamer. She is in a world based on the video game she played. She is the villainess, or she's meant to be the villainess. She does not care about that. All she cares about is enjoying a world of gaming, and then making sure she doesn't have to become the heroine of the story. She, of course, does have to deal with a bunch of things. There's a fun dragon that unfortunately is not animated particularly well. It's a CG mess. That's a shame, because the dragon is a fun character. There's some love in there. There's some misunderstandings and some understandings. And there is a element in the show that does not appear in a lot of these I woke up in a video game, which is the will of the game to keep to its story or fantasy novel or whatever. That happens on occasion. I don't think it happens enough where there's some sort of force that is trying to get things back on track. And I find that intriguing and interesting. I think it adds another layer because other than some people don't like her, our main character is the most powerful. There's a scene where her magic gets sealed and she's like, I'm still level 99 though. And so she just breaks the shackles that were put on her because she's still incredibly strong. So it's just like, yeah, I don't know what you're going to do, friends. She's good. She's got it. So adding the idea of that, like along the way, the game world is like, no, we got to figure out how to get to Act 3 here. That's interesting. I find that intriguing. I thought this was a great show. Will it end up on my top 10 list? Maybe. I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't know what comes off of this 10. I have a couple ideas of what comes off of this 10. This one might come off the 10. But first half of the year, really into it. Windbreaker. This is another show that like is one of my favorite shows this year. Might not end up in my top 10. Might be top 15 or top 20. Windbreaker is just... This is the shonen if you have been missing shonen that like... If you took a break from shonen and you just want like a good one that came out this year, this is the one to watch. There's a lot of philosophy. There's a lot of like boys settling disputes with violence, but like friendship blooms on the battlefield kind of violence. A lot of personal philosophy, a lot of misunderstandings. It plays a little bit with the idea of like, okay, so our main dude, who you can see there next to the blonde-haired guy, half his hair is one color, the half is the other. People naturally assume that means that you're a baddie, that you bleach your hair. That means that you're like a degenerate and a delinquent. And he's like, I'm not. But he's been hearing that his whole life. So he's like, fine, then I'll become one. And what happens when you end up in a school full of other delinquents, but they're like all really nice. Your school is fun and cool. And they're there to help the community. What does it mean to be a delinquent that is considered a hero or a good guy? And that's fun. It's a lot of personal philosophy, a lot of silliness. It's a good time. The anime is a weird adaptation in that the first arc is not 12 episodes worth of content. So they kind of end it and then just do more world building to lead into the next arc. So stuff that probably should be like the first episode of a second season is just in the first season. And we'll get more Windbreaker, but it's kind of weird. And that's the list. That's my favorite shows in 2024 so far. I want to hear from you, friends, in the chat. In the comments below. What are your shows? You don't have to list 10, but what are like 3 or 4? Any that are on this list? Any that you were surprised aren't on this list? Like, excuse me. Sorry. Are you thinking, Pat, but a Yuri Camp came out. Layback Camp is not one of your 10 favorite shows so far in 2024? Yeah, that animation really made me sad. It's a deal breaker. It's just a deal breaker. I know some people didn't even notice it. Some people didn't mind that the animation changed, the studio change, but I kept thinking about what could have been. And it was a deal breaker for me, unfortunately. So it's not one of my 10 favorite shows. But yeah, there are probably going to be some other things that pop in that like make sense for me. Again, I haven't even looked at the fall 2024 season, so I don't know what's going to be there. Looking forward, next video will be me recommending shows that you should be watching from the summer 2024 season, the one that I'm currently in at the time of this recording. So look for that at a wide range of vibes there. I got a couple that I've been talking about one show on a weekly basis that I know some people are probably surprised about because it does not seem like a subgenre that I would be into. And I don't even know if it's going to be a recommendation, but I've been watching a variety of things. And I want to hear from you about ideas you have for future Pat Baer's Anime Club videos. If you have a topic, if I've done something in the past that you would like more of, you want more weird manga premises, you want me to watch a horror show again because I've done that on occasion. It would be a weird time for that. You want to know like my favorite summer anime? I don't know. Let me know. what you'd like to see me do in the future. Thanks so much for watching this video. Hit the like button, leave a comment, tell a friend. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.